I agree with Louis. I mean, it's, in these situations, I mean, if you make a call to the police, by the time they get to the scene, who knows what might happen. I mean, people have to be in a position one way or another. And I'm not somebody who's really comfortable. You're talking about not being comfortable with firearms. I'm not. But I do think people have to have some kind of plan to protect themselves, because expecting the police to be able to get there and save you minutes after the fact, even if they get there very fast, it's
Well, the police are to investigate after the crime.
That's right.
But they're not your security guards. And I don't know, Jim, I'd like to live next door to this woman. I'd feel a lot safer if she was my
Okay,
neighbor.
but let me, an alarm system, great. And I think I'm not comfortable with firearms either. Okay, I mean that's great of what this lady did and all. But is there an expectation then that those of us that don't have firearms and
You're on
aren't
your
proficient, yeah, I mean that we're not protecting ourselves?
That's right.
No, really, is that the? Are you? You're saying you champion? Yeah, this lady's cool. Maybe there'll be a
I wouldn't
a
go
movie.
so far as to require everybody to have a gun.
I mean, but it's better. I
But
mean,
the honest truth is, if you don't take responsibility.
Okay, how about an alarm system?
For the protection of your property.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot to say about it if your property
but
is
where is?
violated.
What's that mean?
Well,
I think if I have an alarm system, isn't that? To me, I can go to sleep.
That's up to you. If that's what makes you feel.
I'm not
better.
packing. Okay, am I doing something wrong?
We frisked you before you came in, Jim. But an alarm system is not the same. I mean, if that's what you want, you can have that. But something tells me if you've been through a home invasion, maybe the next time you'd have more than an alarm system. Maybe you would get comfortable with a gun. I hope that never happens to you, but if it did, it might change your perspective.
I mean, good point there. But I'm a little not a little. I'm uncomfortable with some expectation of those of us who don't have firearms. We're somehow not protecting us and our loved ones.
Okay, well, I'm not accusing you of that.
No, but what are you getting to?
Way.
Somehow we're not, we're not kind of living up to what others are doing.
I guess I would say
I agree totally that we're responsible. Okay, I agree with that.
I don't want to monopolize this. I mean, you're probably asking the whole room. For me, I'm not looking down on you for not having one. I'm just saying that I think you're better off being able to defend yourself and not just have an alarm ring.
Okay.
But if that's what the level that you wish to have, I mean, you're free to leave your doors and windows unlocked if you want. I have no
and
quarrel with
some
that.
people do that.
But no, I don't look down on you for not having a gun. I look down on you for other things, Jim. Not for that.
Touche.
I think the thing we'd agree on is that ultimately the responsibility when the crime is happening, it's whether you choose to have a way to protect yourself or not. It's going to come down. It's going to come down to us. It's not going to. There's not going to be somebody else who's going to be able to save us in that situation.
All right. Speaking of a prevent defense, when we come back, it looks like there's going to be an Arizona-style immigration bill in the new legislature. I know one guy in this room wants to talk about that. We'll do that and much more with our Gang of Four. It's 10:39.
Just can't understand it. I just can't understand it. I just don't understand it. And I must have got lost. I must have got lost. I must have got lost somewhere down the line. I must have got lost. I must have got lost. Give away the days you were mine.
All right, here we go. 10:44 on 550 KTSA. It's a Gang of Four for a Friday morning. It kicks off the weekend. Jim Eskin is here. Louis Barrios, Gilbert Garcia. We're talking about the big news stories of the week, and you can vote in the JR poll with the hitman allegations against Mike Yeknitz. Would you go to him for eyeglasses, yes or no? Now, the legislature hasn't even started meeting yet. But there's a tremendous amount of interest in what's going to be happening in Austin already. And one thing we know will come up is some sort of Arizona-style immigration law for Texas. Louis, you're very interested in this.
Yes.
And for folks that are not familiar with your position, are you for or against the Arizona approach in Texas?
I am against the Arizona approach, but I am for comprehensive immigration reform. We're up there already trying to let everybody know that this is a economic issue more so than something that can just be politicized.
What's your problem with the Arizona approach?
Well, polarization first and foremost, and I don't know. My family immigrated from Mexico legally, and I just have so many family members from Mexico that come over to visit and such, and I'm concerned that they would not be treated properly or treated as subhuman, and I'm just not comfortable with that. I mean, I guess I'm not that far removed from my mother country.
What about the argument that people in law enforcement are bringing out, Gilbert, saying, this is a job we have not asked for, don't want, and with budget cuts can't handle?
Yeah, I think that's a very good argument. And I think, I've talked to some politicians in the last year. Lamar Smith is one who comes to mind, who's made the argument that the Arizona law is essentially just a state version of what federal law is, and that it's consistent with that. And I think the problem that many of us have with the Arizona law and applying it to Texas is that you're putting local and state law enforcement in the position of doing something that's a federal job. And I know the argument has been made, well, the federal government is falling down on its responsibility there. But I think when you put local law enforcement in the position where they're asking people these kinds of questions, it's taxing them, it's burdening them in a way that I don't think that they really want to be and that they can handle, and it's also, I think, putting them in a position that's not good.
Gilbert, speaking to the fact that Lamar says that it's just a duplicate of the federal law, the federal law is not really enforced strictly. And it was Abraham Lincoln that said, if you want to get a bad law repealed, then enforce it strictly. These are bad laws. These immigrants are economic engines, and though a lot of people just want to look at the cost side of having undocumenteds here, they don't look at the benefit side. And the reason why they don't do that is because the benefit guys have been silenced by the INS with raids and with audits, and they can't afford to go through an audit. And so instead of speaking out for the advantage of having immigrants here, they're silenced. So the guys that have the cost sides, they're the ones with the microphone.
And local law enforcement has enough trouble handling the other aspects of their job.
Not only are they not prepared to pull somebody over, who is going to defend these undocumented? They're going to get due process. So first of all, it wouldn't stand up constitutionally, and then second of all, the court costs, the defense attorney costs. In this economic climate that we have, we can't afford to. We had Sheriff Wiles from El Paso, Republican, yesterday at the press conference at before the Capitol Press Corps, and he was speaking to every one of these issues, saying, we can't afford it, we're getting our budget cut, we have less officers, and now you're going to put a greater burden and greater expense on our citizens of El Paso.
Stepping away from the emotions for a minute, let's just talk about another business consideration. I want to get an honest answer, as honest as you can be about this, Louis. I was talking yesterday to a businessman, and we were talking about the end of the year numbers for him, and he said, his numbers came up a little at the end of the year. He thinks the reason 2010 was slightly better than 2009 was he got so much business from wealthy visiting Mexican nationals. That's what he thinks made the difference between a winning year and a losing year, because extremely wealthy Mexicans come here and they are lavish spenders, whether it's buying products or staying in hotels or what have you. Would there be an effect on that part of our economy if there were headlines about Texas passing an Arizona-style law, or is that commerce pretty much going to be there no matter what?
That commerce is here because things are so unsafe in Mexico.
They're going to come no matter what.
They're living here. Not only are they going to come here and spend money, they're living here and investing in businesses that even lose money, because unless they invest in this economy, they can't keep their visa to stay here. So they're wealthy people. They open up businesses. If they lose money or not, doesn't matter.
So the argument that it would make sort of an unfriendly climate for that investment is not true.
I don't believe so. They're here for security reasons. No. They're here for that purpose and that reason to raise their children in a safe environment.
I don't know if you saw this or not this morning. The unemployment numbers came out. Very curious. The unemployment rate dropped to 9.4%, but only 100,000 new jobs, 103,000 new jobs were listed as created. So really, when you peel away these numbers, what you find out is that there had to have been hundreds of thousands of people who stopped looking. for work.
Mm-hmm.
So really, this drop in the unemployment rate is not great news. It's
And of
not
course, it
a
does
sign of
reflect
something
a
going.
seasonal period. But, our economy is so part fact and perception. So let's not hire that, there's it's a movement, and in what it was the biggest drop in like 12, 13 years.
We're only averaging 90,000 new jobs a month, which is way below just keeping up with population growth. I mean, this is one of those times where you can't sugarcoat it. Even if the percentages come down, we are precipitously heading in the wrong direction on jobs. We just are.
Corporate America has figured out that they can generate the same amount of revenues with less employees. They just put a greater burden on each employee. The restaurant industry is one of the few industries that actually grew jobs in this economy, because if you need a glass of iced tea or soup or a spoon, somebody's got to go get it for you. So we have actually grown jobs even in a capital intensive business like the restaurant industry, because it's impossible to have less labor in a restaurant. We're the largest employer in the country, the largest employer of 16 to 24-year-olds, the largest employer of minorities.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're one of the few industries that cannot cut and generate the same amount of revenues.
But unfortunately, you're also an industry that is not, you're not supplying something we need. We choose to go out to eat. We don't have to go out to eat. So at the end of the day, people can cut back on that and keep cutting back on it, right?
Well, our business model is this. We have a high margin item called the margarita, the bottle of wine, or beer, for example, bottle of beer. So that is a high margin item. That basically subsidizes the aggressive lunch menu prices,
Right.
early bird prices, and
Right.
dinner prices. So we have our loss leaders,
Right.
and we can provide a meal, a value meal. McDonald's has a dollar menu. You can buy a dollar sandwich. So we do have our loss leaders in our industry. So I don't know, we can compete pretty well with the grocery store as long as we do a lot of volume and we have some higher margin items to offset the discounted
No.
items.
I think your margaritas are worth every penny. I don't care what the markup is. I love them. But I guess what I'm getting at is what will people, and Jim, you said something that is true. I mean, at the end
Once
of the
a
day,
year, by the way.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the only time. There is perception. There is a perception problem in this economy. We know there are companies that are actually sitting on dollars they don't feel comfortable spending, investing in job creation and buying equipment. What are business owners going to have to see in 2011? What would they have to see to perceive, to feel like they could start to spend some of those dollars? The silence.
I think first of all,
Wrong.
I think we are moving in the right direction, and things are going to get better. Listen, the stock market is performed well.
true.
We all know that.
That's true.
Bubble.
We're keeping
Bubble.
here, huh?
The stock market's a bubble right now.
Well, it's performed well, and predictions are for reasonably. It's not going to go maybe like the Clinton '90s, but to stay, 3, 5, 6%, and that's, a whole lot better than 2008. The stock market's going to get better, and people are going to continue to shop. Probably, we're not going to get there overnight.
But my question is, what do businesses need to see from government or whatever? Probably from government.
That's exactly right.
What do they need to see?
When I look at a third restaurant, I do a pro-con list. And on my cons, I see nothing but political action. Before it was the Employee Free Choice Act, which is now off the table with this new Congress. I've seen, the smoking ordinance is one that somebody would look at if you're in my business model. You look at
Healthcare.
you look at healthcare, the cost of healthcare. You look at the immigration piece. So right now we're doing pro-cons list, and instead of seeing is the area underserved, is it a good location, is it a good price, do I have a good concept? Now we're looking at what is the political environment looking like, what is the future going to look like politically, and do I want to invest these hard asset dollars, or am I going to need them to survive?